But she did blush. "Nothing is fixed, Lady Fawn." "Something should be fixed, Lucy. It should be settled by this time, shouldn't it, dear? What will you do without a home, if at the end of 6 months Lady Linlithgow should say that she doesn't want you any more?" Lucy certainly did not look forward to a condition in which Lady Linlithgow should be the arbitress of her destiny. The idea of staying with the Countess was almost as bad to her as that of finding herself altogether homeless. She was still blushing, feeling herself to be hot and embarrassed, but Lady Fawn sat waiting for an answer. To Lucy there was only one answer possible. "I will ask Mr. Greystock what I'm to do." Lady Fawn shook her head. "You don't believe in Mr. Greystock, Lady Fawn." "But I do." "My darling girl," said her ladyship, making the special speech for the sake of making which she had travelled up from Richmond, "it is not exactly a question of belief, but one of common prudence. No girl should allow herself to depend on a man before she is married to him. By doing so she will be apt to lose even his respect." "I didn't mean for money," said Lucy, hotter than ever, with her eyes full of tears. "She should not be in any respect at his disposal till he has bound himself to her at the altar. You may believe me, Lucy, when I tell you so. It's only because I love you so that I say so." "I know that, Lady Fawn." "When your time here is over, just put up your things and come back to Richmond. You need fear nothing with us. Frederick quite liked your way of parting with him at last, and all that little affair is forgotten. At Fawn Court you'll be safe, and you shall be happy too, if we can make you happy. It's the proper place for you." "Of course you'll come," said Diana Fawn. "You'll be the worst little thing in the world if you don't," said Lydia. "We don't know what to do without you, do we, mamma?" "Lucy will please us all by coming back to her old home," said Lady Fawn. The tears were now streaming down Lucy's face, so that she was hardly able to say a word in answer to all this kindness. And she did not know what to say. Were she to accept the offer made to her, and acknowledge that she could do nothing better than creep back under her old friend's wing, would she not thereby be showing that she doubted her lover? And yet she could not go to the Dean's house unless the Dean and his wife were pleased to take her. And suspecting as she did that they would not be pleased, would it become her to throw upon her lover the burden of finding her a home with people who did not want her? Had she been welcome at Bobsborough, Mrs. Greystock would surely have told her before this. "You needn't say a word, my dear," said Lady Fawn. "You'll come, and there's an end of it." "But you don't want me any more," said Lucy, from amidst her sobs. "That's just all you know about it," said Lydia. "We do want you, more than anything." "I wonder whether I may come in now," said Lady Linlithgow, entering the room. As it was the Countess's own drawing-room, as it was now midwinter, and as the fire in the dining-room had been allowed, as was usual, to sink almost to 2 hot coals, the request was not unreasonable. Lady Fawn was profuse in her thanks, and immediately began to account for Lucy's tears, pleading their dear friendship and their long absence, and poor Lucy's emotional state of mind. Then she took her leave, and Lucy, as soon as she had been kissed by her friends outside the drawing-room door, took herself to her bedroom and finished her tears in the cold. "Have you heard the news?" said Lady Linlithgow to her companion, about a month after this. Lady Linlithgow had been out, and asked the question immediately on her return. Lucy, of course, had heard no news. "Lizzie Eustace has just come back to London, and has had all her jewels stolen on the road." "The diamonds?" asked Lucy, with amaze. "Yes, the Eustace diamonds. And they didn't belong to her any more than they did to you. They've been taken, anyway. And from what I hear, I shouldn't be at all surprised if she had arranged the whole matter herself." "Arranged that they should be stolen?" "Just that, my dear. It would be the very thing for Lizzie Eustace to do. She's clever enough for anything." "But Lady Linlithgow—" "I know all about that. Of course it would be very wicked, and if it were found out, she'd be put in the dock and tried for her life. It's just what I expect she'll come to some of these days. She has gone and got up a friendship with some disreputable people, and was travelling with them. There was a man who calls himself Lord George de Bruce Carruthers. I know him, and can remember when he was an errand boy to a disreputable lawyer at Aberdeen." This assertion was a falsehood on the part of the Countess. Lord George had never been an errand boy, and the Aberdeen lawyer, as provincial Scotch lawyers go, had been by no means disreputable. "I'm told that the police think that he has got them." "How very dreadful!" "Yes, it's dreadful enough. At any rate, men got into Lizzie's room at night and took away the iron box and diamonds and all. It may be she was asleep at the time, but she's one of those who pretty nearly always sleep with one eye open. She can't be so bad as that, Lady Linlithgow. Perhaps not, we'll see. They had just begun a lawsuit about the diamonds to get them back, and then all at once they're stolen. It looks what the men call fishy. I'm told that all the police in London are up about it. On the very next day, who should come to Brook Street but Lizzie Eustace herself. She and her aunt had quarrelled, and they hated each other. But the old woman had called upon Lizzie, advising her, as the reader will perhaps remember, to give up the diamonds. And now Lizzie returned the visit. "So you're here, installed in poor Macnulty's place," began Lizzie to her old friend, the Countess at the moment being out of the room. "I'm staying with your aunt for a few months as her companion. Is it true, Lizzie, that all your diamonds have been stolen?" Lizzie gave an account of the robbery, true in every respect, except in regard to the contents of the box. Poor Lizzie had been wronged in the matter by the Countess, for the robbery had been quite genuine. The man had opened her room and taken her box, and she had slept through it all. And then the broken box had been found, and was in the hands of the police, and was evidence of the fact. "People seem to think it possible," said Lizzie, "that Mr. Camperdown the lawyer arranged it all." As this suggestion was being made, Lady Linlithgow came in, and then Lizzie repeated the whole story of the robbery. Though the aunt and niece were open and declared enemies, the present circumstances were so peculiar and full of interest that conversation for a time almost amicable took place between them. "As the diamonds were so valuable, I thought it right, Aunt Susanna, to come and tell you myself." "It's very good of you, but I'd heard it already. I was telling Miss Morris yesterday what very odd things there are being said about it." "Weren't you very much frightened?" asked Lucy. "You see, my child, I knew nothing until it was all over. The man cut a bit out of the door in the most beautiful way without my ever hearing the least sound of the saw." "And you sleep so light," said the Countess. "They say that perhaps something was put into the wine at dinner to make me sleep." "Ah!" ejaculated the Countess, who did not for a moment give up her own erroneous suspicion. "Very likely. And they do say these people can do things without making the slightest tittle of noise. At any rate, the box was gone." "And the diamonds?" asked Lucy. "Oh, yes, of course. And now there's such a fuss about it. The police keep on coming to me almost every day." "And what do the police think?" asked Lady Linlithgow. "I'm told that they have their suspicions." "No doubt they have their suspicions," said Lizzie. "You travelled up with friends, I suppose?" "Oh, yes, with Lord George de Bruce Carruthers, and with Mrs. Carbuncle, who is my particular friend, and with Lucinda Roanoke, who was just going to be married to Sir Griffin Tewett. We were quite a large party." "And Macnulty?" "No, I left Miss Macnulty at Portray with my darling. They thought he had better remain a little longer in Scotland." "Ah, yes, perhaps Lord George de Bruce Carruthers does not care for babies. I can easily believe that. I wish Macnulty had been with you." "Why do you wish that?" said Lizzie, who was already beginning to feel that the Countess intended, as usual, to make herself disagreeable. "She's a stupid, dull, pig-headed creature, but one can believe what she says." "And don't you believe what I say?" demanded Lizzie. "It's all true, no doubt, that the diamonds are gone." "Indeed it is." "But I don't know much about Lord George de Bruce Carruthers." "He's the brother of a marquis, anyway," said Lizzie, who thought that she might thus best answer the mother of a Scotch earl. "I remember when he was plain George Carruthers, running about the streets of Aberdeen, and it was well with him when his shoes weren't broken at the toes and down at the heel. He earned his bread then, such as it was. Nobody knows how he gets it now. Why does he call himself de Bruce, I wonder?" "Because his godfathers and godmothers gave him that name when he was made a child of Christ and an inheritor of the kingdom of heaven," said Lizzie, ever so pertly. "I don't believe a bit of it." "I wasn't there to see it, Aunt Susanna, and therefore I can't swear to it. That's his name in all the peerages, and I suppose they ought to know." "And what does Lord George de Bruce say about the diamonds?" Now it had come to pass that Lady Eustace herself did not feel altogether sure that Lord George had not had a hand in this robbery. It would have been a trick worthy of a genuine corsair to arrange and carry out such a scheme for the appropriation of so